My sister said, "You live alone with no kids, so take in grandma." When I reminded her I work full-time, she scoffed, "You don't have a real family." That evening, I canceled her kids' education funding man. Let me tell you about the day my sister learned to watch her damn mouth. It was the kind of family drama you can't make up, the kind that has you reaching for another Bud Light before you even finish telling the story. So there we were, all crammed into my parents' living room for this emergency family meeting about what to do with grandma. The old gal had taken a nasty fall in her bathroom last month, and the doctor straight up told us she couldn't live alone anymore. My dad had called everyone together. Me, my sister Natasha, we call her Tash, my brother Mike, who was on FaceTime, from Seattle, and my parents looking stressed as hell. The tension in that room was thicker than a Texas summer. Nobody wanted to be the bad guy, but someone had to step up for grandma. My parents' place was already too small, and they both still worked. Mike lived across the country. Then all eyes turned to me and Tash. Now for context. My sister's got this perfect little suburban life, 4-bedroom house in a nice neighborhood, married to Dan who makes bank and finance, 3 kids, and she's a part-time consultant, which basically means she works like 15 hours a week from home. Meanwhile, I'm busting my ass as a hospital administrator, pulling 50, 60-hour weeks, living in my modest 2-bedroom apartment downtown. Tash didn't even let the conversation breathe before she looked dead at me and said, "Well, obviously, you should take grandma in. You live alone with no kids, so it makes the most sense." I nearly choked on my iced tea. "Excuse me? I work full-time, Tash. Actually, more than full-time. Who's gonna look after her during the day?" That's when she hit me with it, this smug little smile spreading across her face like cream cheese on a bagel. "Come on, it's not like you have a real family to take care of. You've got the space and the time." The room went quiet. No cap. You could have heard a Nike shoelace drop. My parents looked at their feet. Mike suddenly had connection issues, and Dan suddenly found his watch fascinating. For a second, I felt like I was 12 years old again, with Tash telling me I couldn't play with her and her friends because I wasn't cool enough. That same burning in my chest. But I'm not 12 anymore. I just nodded and said, "You know what? You're right, Tash." Everyone looked surprised, especially her. The meeting wrapped up with some vague plans about looking into options and checking insurance coverage. I drove home in my Chevy, white-knuckling the steering wheel the whole way, updated. Y'all won't believe the messages blowing up my phone right now. Some folks are saying I should have stood up for myself right there in that living room, but sometimes revenge is a dish best served with a side of patience. You know what I'm saying? The way Tash looked at me like I was some incomplete human because I don't have a husband and kids. Has anyone else been made to feel less than by family because your life doesn't fit their cookie-cutter definition of success? I'm sitting here wondering if I'm about to burn a bridge I can't rebuild, but damn, should I really be the one always expected to be the bigger person? What my dear sister didn't know was that for the past 7 years, I'd been quietly handling a pretty significant expense in her perfect little life. See, when her twins were born and then her youngest came along just 13 months later, Tash and Dan were struggling. Their mortgage was massive. Daycare for 3 kids cost more than my rent, and they were drowning. I'd just gotten a big promotion and a sweet raise. No husband, no kids meant I had disposable income. So when they were looking at preschool options and obviously couldn't afford the fancy Montessori place Tash had her heart set on, I stepped in. Anonymously, I set up a trust that paid directly to the school. As the kids got older, it covered their private elementary tuition too. Dan and Tash just thought they got some amazing financial aid package based on having multiple kids enrolled. The school administrator was the only one who knew, and she was cool keeping my secret. It cost me roughly $45,000 a year, vacation money, house down payment money, but they were my niece and nephews, and I loved them. I figured someday I'd tell them when they were older, maybe help with college too. But that night, after being told I didn't have a real family, I poured myself a Jack and Coke, opened my laptop, and wrote a very simple email to the school's financial office. Effective immediately, I need to terminate the educational trust for the Mitchell children. Please direct all future tuition inquiries to their parents. I hit send, closed my laptop, and slept better than I had in years. For a solid week, nothing happened. We had another family meeting where my parents announced they'd hired a part-time nurse for grandma who'd stay at her house. Crisis temporarily averted. Tash didn't even look at me. Then it happened. I was at work when my phone lit up with Tash's face. 6 missed calls in a row. I stepped out of a meeting to answer call number 7. "What's wrong?" I asked, all innocent. Her voice was frantic. "Something's wrong with the kids' school payments. The principal just called me saying we owe for the last month and the payment for next quarter is due next week. That's like $15,000. We don't have right now. The financial aid office said our support package was terminated and they don't know why." I leaned against the wall in the hallway, twirling a pen between my fingers. "Oh, that. What do you mean, oh, that? Do you know something about this?" "Yeah," I said, cool as a cucumber on a January morning. The person without a real family decided to spend her money on herself for a change. Dead. Silence. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. "Tash, who do you think has been paying for your kids' fancy private school for the last 7 years? It wasn't financial aid. It was me." I heard what sounded like her sitting down hard. That's not possible." "Check with the school administrator. I set it up when the twins were 3, nearly 50 grand a year, every year. But since I don't have a real family to support, I figured I'd treat myself instead. Maybe buy a boat, or take some vacations. Hell, maybe I'll adopt a highway since I can't have kids of my own." The last part wasn't necessary. Probably a low blow considering her kids weren't at fault, but I was still raw from her comment. Updated. Hold up, folks. The reaction to this story is wild. Half of y'all are cheering me on like I'm some kind of justice warrior, and the other half think I'm punishing innocent kids. Trust me, I've been tossing and turning every night wondering if I went nuclear over one nasty comment. The thing is, it wasn't just one comment. It was years of little digs about my incomplete life. Should I have confronted her directly instead? And real talk, would you have kept bankrolling someone who clearly doesn't respect you? Or was it time to close that checkbook? I keep wondering what my niece and nephews will think when they're older and learn about all this. Why didn't you ever say anything? Tash asked, her voice small now. Because it wasn't about getting credit. It was about those kids having opportunities. But apparently, since I don't have children of my own, my contribution to your family doesn't count. She started crying then. Not the pretty crying she does when she wants something, but ugly, snotty crying. I'm sorry, she choked out. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did, I replied. You've been making comments like that for years. How I don't understand because I don't have kids. How my job is just a job while yours is balancing work and family. How holiday traditions matter more to you because you have real family to pass them down to. She tried to interrupt, but I was on a roll. And you know what, Tash? I've let it slide every single time. I've helped with your kids, bought them expensive gifts, taken them on special outings to give you and Dan breaks, and apparently, oh yeah, paid for their entire education. But it's never been enough for you to see me as a complete person. Bye. Now I was pacing the hallway at work, getting looks from passing colleagues. I didn't care. So here's what's gonna happen. Your kids will be fine in public school. Lots of kids go to public school. And you and Dan are going to figure out how to take Grandma in, since you've got that big house and you only work part-time, and apparently that's what real family does. We can't afford to lose my income if I have to care for Grandma, she protested. Should have thought about that before you decided my time and money were worth less than yours because of my life choices, I said. When I hung up, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. The fallout was nuclear for real. My parents were shocked when they found out about the school payments. My brother Mike called me and just said, "Damn sis, remind me never to piss you off." But I could hear the respect in his voice. Dan called next, all apologetic, saying he'd had no idea about the school payments and he was working on Tash to make things right, whatever that meant. The kids got transferred to the local public school. Not a tragedy by any stretch, but a definite lifestyle change for them. And Tash? She and Dan converted their home office into a bedroom for Grandma, hired a part-time caregiver to be there when they couldn't, and Tash had to up her work hours to help cover the costs. For a while, things were straight up awkward at family gatherings. The kids didn't know why they changed schools, just that Mom and Dad couldn't afford the old one anymore. I still brought them gifts and spent time with them. They weren't responsible for their mother's words. About 3 months later, Tash asked if we could meet for coffee. We sat across from each other at Starbucks, both clutching our drinks like shields. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she started, looking tired in a way I'd never seen before. Taking care of Grandma, even part-time, it's hard, harder than I expected. I nodded but didn't fill the silence. And I keep thinking about what you said, about how I've been treating you for years. She looked out the window. I was jealous. You know, that caught me off guard. Of what? Your freedom, your career, the way you can just decide to go to Italy for 2 weeks and do it. How you're still moving up in your company while I've been stuck at the same level for a decade because I can't put in more hours. She smiled sadly. Don't get me wrong, I love my kids more than anything. But sometimes I look at your life and wonder. We all have our stuff, Tash, I said, softening a bit. My apartment gets pretty quiet sometimes. She nodded. I know. I'm sorry for what I said. Really sorry. It was cruel and untrue. I took a sip of my latte. Thanks for saying that. The kids miss their aunt, she added hesitantly. I miss them too. We sat there for a moment before she asked the question I knew was coming. About the school. I held up my hand. I'm not paying for private school again, Tash. That ship has sailed. She nodded quickly. No, I understand. That's not what I was asking. The twins are struggling a bit with math in the new school. I wondered if maybe you'd consider helping tutor them sometimes. You were always so good at explaining things. It was an olive branch. Not a perfect one, but genuine. Yeah, I said. I can do that. Updated. All right, final update before I wrap this crazy story up. First off, thanks for all the DMs checking if Grandma's okay. She's actually thriving now and has become Tash's kids' biggest video game competitor. She's undefeated at Mario Kart, no joke. Some of you asked if I regret my decision, and honestly, it's complicated. The money wasn't the point. It was about being valued as a person regardless of my family status. But here's my question to you all. Where do you draw the line between standing up for yourself and completely burning bridges with family? Because I'm still figuring that balance out every day. Have any of you had to make tough choices that changed your family dynamics forever? I'm still navigating these new waters with Tash, and sometimes I wonder if things will ever truly heal. It's been almost a year now. Things aren't perfect between me and Tash, but they're better, more honest. We're both making an effort to see each other clearly, not through the lens of old resentments or comparisons. Grandma's actually doing great at their house. Turns out she's a whiz with the kids' homework and has become their after-school buddy. Who knew? The kids are adjusting to public school. The oldest is even on the basketball team now, something the fancy private school was too small to offer. Go figure. As for me, I took some of that education money and finally made a down payment on a little lake house about an hour outside the city. Nothing fancy, just a small A-frame with a deck. Last weekend, I invited the whole family out. My parents, Mike and his boyfriend who were visiting, Tash, Dan, the kids, and Grandma. We grilled burgers, drank beer, and watched the sunset over the water. The kids played tag on the lawn while the adults talked on the deck. At one point, I caught Tash watching me as I helped her youngest bait a fishing hook. "What?" I asked. She smiled, a real smile this time. "Nothing, just, you've got a pretty great family here." And for once, we both knew she meant it.